Chapter 12 The Mirror of Arise. Christmas was coming. One morning in mid December, Hogwarts woke to find itself covered in several feet of snow. The lake froze solid, and the Weasley twins were punished for bewitching several snowballs so that they followed Quirrell around, bouncing off the back of his turban. The few owls managed to battle their way through the stormy sky to deliver mail, had to be nursed back to health by Hagrid before they could fly off again. No one could wait for the holidays to start. While the Gryffindor common room and the Great Hall had roaring fires, the drafty corridors had become icy, and a bitter wind rattled the windows in the classrooms. Worse for all, for Professor Snape's classes down in the dungeons, where their breath rose in a mist before them, and they kept as close as possible to their hot cauldrons. I do feel sorry, said Draco Malfoy, one potions class, for all those people who have to stay at Hogwarts for Christmas because they are not wanted at home. He was looking over at Harry as he spoke. Crabagore chuckled. Harry, who was measuring out powdered spine of lionfish, ignored them. Malfoy had been even more unpleasant than usual since the Quidditch match disgusted that the Slytherins had lost. He had tried to get everyone laughing at how a wide-mouthed tree frog would be replacing Harry at Secret Next. Then he realized that nobody found his funny bunny. They were all so impressed at the way Harry managed to stay on his bucking broomstick. So Malfoy, jealous and angry, had got back to taunting Harry about having no proper family. It was true that Harry wasn't going back to Privilege Drive for Christmas because Professor McGonagall had come around the weekend before making a list of students who would be staying for the holidays, and Harry signed up at once. He didn't feel sorry for himself at all. This would probably be the best Christmas he'd ever had. Ron and his brothers were staying too because Mr. and Mrs. Weasleys were going to Romania to visit Charlie. When they left the dungeons at the end of potions, they found a large fir tree blocking the corridor ahead, two enormous feet sticking out at the bottom, and a loud puffing sound told them that Hagrid was behind it. "Hi, Hagrid, want any help?" Ron asked, sticking his head through the branches. "No, I'm all right, thanks, Ron. Would you mind moving out of the way?" came Malfoy's cold drawl from behind them. "Are you trying to earn some extra money?" Weasley, hoping to be a gamekeeper yourself when you leave Hogwarts. I suppose the hunt for Hagrid's must seem like a place compared to what your family's used to. Ron dived at Malfoy just as Snape came up the stairs. Weasley, Ron let go of Malfoy's robes. He was provoked. Professor Snape said Hagrid, sticking his huge hairy face out from behind the tree. Malfoy was insulting his family. Be that as it may, it against Hogwarts rules, Hagrid said. Snape silly. 5 points from Gryffindor, Weasley, and be grateful it isn't more. Move along, all of you. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle pushed roughly past the tree, scattering needles everywhere and smirking. "I'll get him," and Ron, grinding his teeth at Malfoy's back. "One of these days, I'll get him. I hate them both," said Harry. Malfoy and Snape, "Come on, cheer up. It's nearly Christmas," said Hagrid. "Tell you what, come on with me. See the Great Hall. Looks at treat." So the three of them followed Hagrid and his tree off to the Great Hall, where Professor McGonagall and Professor Flitwick were busy with the Christmas decorations. Hagrid, the last sheep, put in the far corner, would you? The hall looked spectacular. Festoons of holly and mistletoe hung all around the walls, and no less than 12 towering Christmas trees stood around the room, some sparkling with tiny icicles, some glittering with hundreds of candles. How many days you got left until your holidays? Hagrid asked. Just one, said Hermione. And that reminds me, Harry, Ron, we've got half an hour before lunch. We should be later in the library. Oh yeah, you're right, said Ron, tearing his eyes from Professor Flitwick, who had golden bubbles blossoming out of his wand and was trailing them over the branches of the new tree. The library, said Hagrid, following them out of the hall just before the holidays. Bit keen around yet, aren't ya? Oh, we're working, Harry told him brightly. Ever since you mentioned Nicholas Flamel, we've been trying to find out who he is. You what? Hagrid looked shocked. Listen here, I've told you, drop it. It's nothing to you what the dog's guarding. We just want to know who Nicholas Flamel is. That's all, said Hermione. Unless you'd like to tell us and save us the trouble, Harry added. We must have been through hundreds of books already. We can't find him anywhere. Just give us a hint. I know I've read him somewhere. I'm saying nothing, said Hagrid flatly. Just have to find out for ourselves. Then, said Ron, and they left Hagrid looking disgruntled and hurried off to the library. They had indeed been searching for books for Flamel's name ever since Hagrid had let it slip. Because how else were they going to find out what Snape was trying to steal? The trouble was, it was very hard to know where to begin, knowing what Flamel might have done to get himself into a book. He wasn't in great wizards of the 20th century or notable magical names of our time. He was missing for important modern magical discoveries and a study of recent developments in wizardry. And then, of course, there was the sheer size of 10,000s of books, thousands of shelves, hundreds of narrow rows. Hermione took out a list of subjects and titles she had decided to search while Ron strode off down a row of books and started pulling them off the shelves at random. Harry wandered over to the restricted section. He had been wondering for a while if Flamel wasn't somewhere in there. Unfortunately, you needed a specially signed note from one of the teachers to look in any of the restrictions books, and he knew he'd never got one. These were the books containing powerful dark magic, never taught at Hogwarts and only read by older students studying advanced defense against the dark arts. What are you looking for, boy? Nothing, said Harry. Madam Prince, the library, brandished a feathered duster at him. You'd better get out, then. Go on, out. Wishing he'd be a quicker at thinking up some story. Harry left the library. He and Ron and Hermione had already agreed they'd better not ask Madam Prince where they could find Flamel. They were sure she'd be able to tell them, but they couldn't risk Snape hearing what they were up to. Harry waited outside in the corridor to see if the other two had found anything, but he wasn't very hopeful. They had been looking for 2 weeks after all, as they only had moments between lessons. It wasn't surprising they found nothing. What they were really needed was a nice long search without Madame Prince breathing down their necks. 5 minutes later, Ron and Hermione joined him, shaking their heads. They went off to lunch. You will keep looking while I'm away, won't you? Said Hermione, and send me an owl if you find anything. And you could ask your parents if they know who Flamel is, said Ron. It'd be safe to ask them, very safe, as they're both dentists, said Hermione. Once the holidays had started, Ron and Hermione were having too good a time to think much about Flamel. They had the dormitory to themselves, and the common room was far emptier than usual, so they were able to get the good armchairs by the fire. They sat by the hour eating anything they could spear on a toasting fork, bread, English muffins, marshmallows, and plotting ways of getting Malfoy expelled, which were fun to talk about, even if they wouldn't work. Ron also started teaching Harry wizard chess. This was exactly like Muggle chess, except that the figures were alive, which made it a lot directing troops in battle. Ron's set was very old and battered, like everything else he owned. It had once belonged to someone else in his family, in this case his grandfather. However, old chessmen weren't a drawback at all. Ron knew them so well, he never had been getting them to do what he wanted. Harry played with chessmen Seamus Finnegan had lent him, and they didn't trust him at all. He wasn't a very good player yet, and they kept shouting different bits of advice at him, which was confusing. Don't send me there. Can't you see his knights? Send him. We can afford to lose him. On Christmas Eve, Harry went to bed looking forward to the next day for the food and the fun, but not expecting any presents at all. When he woke early in the morning, however, the first thing he saw was a small pile of packages at the foot of his bed. Merry Christmas, said Ron sleepily, and scrambled out of bed and pulled on his bathrobe. You too, said Harry. Will you look at this? I've got some presents. What did you expect, Turnips? Said Ron, turning to his own pile, which was a lot bigger than Harry's. Harry picked up the top parcel. It was wrapped in thick brown, and scrawled across it was to Harry from Hagrid. Inside was a roughly closed wooden flute. Harry obviously whittled it himself. Harry blew it. It sounded a bit like an owl. A second very parcel contained a note. Received your message and enclosed your Christmas present from Uncle Vernon and Petunia. Tapped to the note was a 50 pence. That's friendly, said Harry. Ron was fascinated by the 50 pence. Weird, said Harry. What a shape. This is money. You can keep it, said Harry, laughing at how pleased Ron was. Hagrid and my aunt and uncle, so we went these. I think I know who that one's from, said Ron, turning a bit pink, pointing to a very lumpy parcel. My mom, I told her I didn't expect any presents, and oh no, he groaned, she made you a Weasley sweater. Harry torn open the parcel to find a thick hand-knitted sweater in emerald and a large box of homemade fudge. Every year she makes us a sweater, Ron said, unwrapping his own, and mine always a maroon. That's really nice of her, said Harry, trying the fudge, which was very tasty. His next present also contained candy, a large box of chocolate frogs from Hermione. This was the only parcel. Harry picked it up and felt it. I was very light. He unwrapped it. Something fluid and silver gray went slithering to the floor, where it lay in gleaming folds. Ron gasped. I've heard of those, he said in a hushed voice, dropping the box of every flavor beans he'd gotten from Hermione. If that's what I think it is, they're really rare and really valuable. What is it? Harry picked the shining silvery cloth from the floor. It was strange to the like water into a miracle. It's an invisibility cloak, said Ron, a look of awe on his face. I'm sure it is. Try it on. Harry threw the cloak around his shoulders, and Ron gave a yell. It is! Look down! Harry looked down at his feet, but they are gone. He dashed the mirror, sure enough. His reflection looked back at him, just his head suspended in midair, his body completely invisible. He pulled the cloak over his head, and his reflection vanished completely. There's a note, said Ron suddenly. A note fell out of it. Harry pulled out of the cloak and seized the letter written in narrow, loopy writing, and he had never seen before were the following words. Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well. A Merry Christmas to you. There was no signature. Harry started the note. Ron was admitting the cloak. I'd give you anything for one of these, he said. Anything? What's the matter? Had asked Ron. Nothing, said Harry. He felt very strange. Who had sent the cloak? Harry, it had really once belonged to his father. Before he could say or think anything else, to the dormitory door opened, and Fred and George Weasley bounded in. Harry stuffed the cloak quickly out of sight. He didn't feel like sharing it with anyone else. Merry Christmas. Hey, look, Harry's got a Weasley sweater too. Fred and George were wearing blue sweaters, one with a large yellow F on it, and the other a G. Harry is better than ours, though, said Fred, holding up sweater. She obviously makes more of an effort if you're not family. Why aren't you wearing yours, Ron? George demanded. Come on, get it on. They're lovely warm. I hate maroon. Ron moaned half-heartedly as he pulled it over his head. You haven't got a letter of yours, George observed. I suppose she thinks you don't forget your name, but we're not stupid. We know we're called George, Dread, and Forge. What's all this noise? Percy Weasley stuck his head through the door, looking disapproving. He had clearly gotten halfway through the unwrapping his presents as he too carried a lumpy sweater over his arm, which Fred sees. P for perfect. Get it on. Percy, come on. We're all wearing ours. Even Harry got one. I don't want, said Percy thickly. At the twins forced the sweater over his head, knocking his glasses askew. And you're not sitting with the prefects today either, said George. Christmas is a time for family. The frog marched Percy from the room, his arms pinned to side by his sweater. Harry had never in it all his life such a Christmas dinner. 100 fat roast turkeys, fountains of a roast of boiled potatoes, platters, a chip, tureens of buttered peas, silver boats of thick, rich gravy, cranberry sauce, and sacks of Wizard crackers. Every few feet along the table, these fantastic party flavors were nothing like to the feeble muckle ones the Dursleys usually bought with their little plastic toys and the flimsy paper hats. Inside, Harry pulled out a Wizard cracker with Fred, and it didn't just bang, it went off with a blast like a cannon and engulfed them in a cloud of blue smoke, while from the inside exploded reels that Miles had, and several live with white mice